All right, so we're going to talk about how I moved out of the US broke AF, like we're talking no money, and how I turned that around and it changed my life. And if it's your first time seeing my face, hello, welcome back to this channel. My name is Malika, and I have lived in 3 different countries since I left the US ages ago. I lived in Italy, I lived in Lebanon, and now I am currently living in Hong Kong, which is amazing. Beirut stole my heart, which, as you can see from the homage behind me, but I've just been so grateful for all the experiences I've been able to have living all over the world. And I posted about this a few weeks ago on my TikTok, my story time of how I left the US, moved to Italy with no money, and turned that around into a 6-figure career and come up. So I want to tell that story time in a little bit of a longer fashion on this channel, and then also give you guys some tips on how you can change your life by moving abroad. If you're living in the US and struggling, things you can do to kind of help make that happen, even if you are on an extremely tight budget and don't have a lot of disposable income. And again, I always say that if I could do it, literally having no money, no job, no prospects, and turning my life around like that, I really think that anyone can do it too. So let's get into the story about how I left the US with no money and how I made that work. So I was in my 20s when the first of many economic crises happened. There have been back-to-back ones. It feels like crises, crashes, recessions, whatever we want to call them. But this was the first of many that happened when the economy was just in shambles. So I graduated, struggled to look for a job, found one, worked for a couple of months in a small brand in the PR department. And then within maybe 3 to 4 months of my working there, first thing they did was lay off the entire PR and marketing team because things got that bad that they just couldn't afford marketing anymore. A few months later, they ended up basically furloughing almost the entire company because the economy just continued to take a turn for the worse. And that's the kind of market that I was navigating, looking for jobs as a young person with really barely any work experience, fresh out of college, right? Like looking for jobs, there were no jobs. Unemployment was paying peanuts. I was struggling to pay rent, living in like a really crappy apartment. And it was just really like a dark time in my life. I can look back on it now and think about everything I learned from that time and how I grew, but it was really, really a struggle. And so I just started thinking about what I was going to do because I was looking for jobs. There weren't even jobs to apply to. Like there was nothing. And so I eventually decided that I should just go to grad school and kind of like be a student again to ride this out, and hopefully the economy will pick back up in a few years. And so I decided that, I didn't really want to go to grad school. I didn't really need it for what I was going to do, but I needed to just get out of where I was. So I decided to do an MBA because that just seemed like the degree that would give me the most flexibility, right? Because I didn't know what was going to happen. I knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't know what the future held at all. So I just knew that I had to do something that would give me options because I had none. So I decided, well, I guess business school just seems like what I should do. And I wasn't really clicking with any of the kind of programs I saw at the places like Harvard and NYU and Columbia. Like they're all amazing schools. I didn't apply for any Ivies in college. I did have the grades. I just didn't want to go. And all the American schools I found just seemed like very heavy on finance and economics. And that was just not who I am and not how I want to spend my time. And I just happened to be at an MBA fair and see a representative from a university in the Netherlands. And it was a degree that was specialized in hospitality management. And I was like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. It's an MBA in hospitality, so the business of international hospitality. I was like, that seems pretty awesome. I don't think I want to do hospitality, but it seems like the European schools have a lot more different kinds of specialties going on. And so that's when I started to get the idea of, I should move abroad for grad school. I've always wanted to study abroad in college. I never could afford it. I worked all through college. So between not being able to pay for the trip and not being able to not work, studying abroad was just not an option for me then. But I was like, you know what? It could be now. Especially since I already know I'm taking out student loans. I already know I'm going into debt for this because I have no money. So if I'm going to go into debt, I can go into debt in a different country and just like enjoy it more than I would being stuck in the US, right? So the wheels are turning. And then I started looking at European schools. I started looking at schools in Italy and in France. And I found that there were a lot that's focused on luxury fashion, luxury goods. And that was where I felt like I wanted to be. And I applied to schools in both countries and I did get accepted to several. I ended up going to Italy just because the school was cheaper and they gave me a bigger scholarship and a better overall package. And one thing to note, the European schools were way cheaper than the US schools, by the way. Most of the programs were only designed to be 12 to 18 months, and they were all between like 20 and 30, maybe 35,000 euros, which was like less than the cost of even 1 year at a traditional 2 year American MBA program. So I felt like I was really winning on all the fronts, right? And for international students, a lot of the packages did include some extra money for cost of living because they know that you have to leave the country and start all over, get an apartment, all those things. So that's how I was able to kind of get my foot in the door. I got into grad school, got a scholarship, also took out loans that helped with cost of living. And a lot of times now you'll see all these digital nomad visas and kind of like expat visas that will have income requirements. I was never going to qualify for any of those. I know a lot of people will not qualify for any of those, but the student visa and the requirements and the financial aid that I got as a student really did save my life. And so if you are someone who is on the fence about continuing your education, you're not sure about it, I have to say, like, that is a really good way to get your foot in the door. If you never went to grad school or you want a second degree, it's an option. My husband's actually in grad school right now, but he's doing the remote option because he is also working full time. But he could have also moved to London. We could have gone back to Europe for him to do this program. And so the real game changer was after I finished my program, I got an internship that was part of this program. You had to do an internship to graduate. My internship wanted to keep me. So they decided to hire me and do all the paperwork, all the sponsorship to convert my student visa to a working visa. And that's how I was able to stay there and like have a salary. Remember, unemployed, no money, barely any savings, like nothing going on for me at home. And then I ended up getting this great job in fashion working with an Italian luxury brand. Gotta drink some water because I got so much more to say. And one thing I also want to highlight is that I did not speak the language when I moved, but I did learn some of it while I was there just because I wanted to stay. I wanted to be competitive. I wanted to kind of have options and opportunities. But one of the things about the job was that I was in is that I was essentially the headquarters representative overseeing their North American business. So I was liaising directly with my counterparts who were in the New York office. And that was part of the reason why I stood out from other candidates is because I was an American. And I say that because a lot of people who want to move abroad think that the only way they can do it is to get a remote job, which are becoming nearly impossible to get. They think the only way they can do it is to get a remote job and then still work for a US company, but work remote and like live and travel abroad. They think that they would never be able to get a job just in a regular local office. And I have to say that's 100% not true. And the thing that made me stand out and made me special and perfect for the job that I had and why they wanted to keep me was because I was an American and it was one that was really essential to their North American and international business that they could not get a local to do to the same level that I could do it. So again, lucky break, but I just want you guys to know that like you have to consider every option. Like don't just think the only avenue is being a digital nomad or having a remote job. And so now we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about why I decided to come back to the US. So, number one, it was a few reasons. Number one, most of my work was in marketing, digital marketing, social media, and e commerce. And at the time, the real trends and innovation and all of the real dynamics driving the industry were originating in the US and then trickling over to the rest of the world later. And so I felt like if I was going to really move up, I was still climbing that corporate ladder. I was on my CMO goal, dream path, corporate boss girly. I knew that I needed to come home to be closer to where the innovation was. I also knew that I wanted to make more money and save more money. And while I had an Italian salary and I was able to live comfortably, it wasn't the level that I wanted. Like my salary when I came back home was 3 times what I was making in Europe. And that's just kind of going to be how it is. And if you're someone who's thinking about leaving the US to get a local job somewhere else, be prepared for that. One of the things that a lot of people love about living outside the US is the reduced cost of living. But keep in mind that reduced cost of living, generally speaking, will come with a reduced average salary as well. And then also on a non-professional note, I just knew, and I don't know how I knew it, but I just knew that my husband was not in Italy. I just knew that if I stayed there, I was going to be single forever. I knew that my husband was at home and I had to go home to find him. I don't know why I knew that. Turns out I was right because I did find him. But yeah, at the time, it was just a combination of I got what I needed to get. Achieved everything that I set out to get. The economy was much better. I knew that I could get a job. I had a degree. I had a language. I had skills that other people didn't have that would set me out from the pack. So that's kind of what led me to decide, it's time to go back. And then, yes, as I said, I was right. I did meet my husband. We have been together since then. It's been amazing. And we did get an opportunity with his position to relocate abroad again. So now we are in Hong Kong, thanks to him. But I will never forget the first steps that I took on my solo journey as a broke ass post college student in the middle of a failing economy with no prospects. And if you feel like you're in the same shoes, in the same boat that I was in, but you still really want to move abroad, here are some things that I would suggest you start thinking about doing ASAP. Because even though moving abroad with no money did end up working out for me, that's not a guarantee that it will work out for you. And I would never want to be responsible for giving someone advice that leads them to a poor situation. Like, I've seen the girls who move with no money and end up homeless. I saw the girl who was homeless in Thailand wandering the streets. Like, I would never want to tell someone you can do it and then you do it and it doesn't work out for you. Like, I'm all about leaps of faith. I took one, but I'm just going to tell you guys to be careful. So, number one, if you are trying to save more money to funnel into your move abroad, it's time for you to think about picking up a side hustle. That could be DoorDash, that could be Uber, it could be dog walking, it could be babysitting, it could be selling cupcakes or whatever your craft is that you're really good at because everyone's amazing at something. Think about what you can do in your spare time, and you're also going to have to hack your time schedule because if you're investing in your side hustle and really going hard at it, you will not have the time for the kind of social life or relaxing that you might be used to. It's gonna suck, but you're gonna have to really go ham on it. Number two, budget cuts. Like, audit your budget, every single dollar that you spend. Start by keeping a spending diary and then just kind of go through things that you spend money on and what you can live without, right? So that might be, I'm just not going to order takeout anymore. I got food in the house. That might be, I'm not going to buy as much organic as I used to. I'm going to go to the regular whatever it might be. My husband and I just realized that we each had an Amazon membership, which is completely unnecessary for the house. So one of us can get rid of it, right? Things like that. We both don't need my Spotify and his Pro, whatever he has. Like, we can kind of consolidate things. So just think about your kind of regular recurring expenses. It might feel like you're just kind of saving $10 here and $10 there, but that could add up to an extra $80 to $100 a month. And then you're throwing your side hustle money and the money you're saving into high yield savings accounts. Number three, it's going to be a great idea to open up a travel rewards credit card. I just started point hacking like a year and a half ago, and it's been such a game changer. I don't know why I wasn't doing this sooner. I have gotten so much free travel just by using credit card points and just kind of like hacking the system of opening a new card, taking advantage of the welcome bonus, and also all the associated benefits. But the main thing is only putting your routine and anticipated spending on those cards. You often have to rack up a pretty significant balance to kind of get the rewards. So you want to be really careful about what you're charging and then making sure you're paying it off. So, for example, one thing I did that hit me a welcome bonus on Chase was I had a surgery for fibroids a year and a half ago, I think. I knew that I was going to get hit with a lot of copays. So, before scheduling surgery, maybe a couple weeks before, I went ahead and just opened up a new credit card. Copays, charges, things I was going to have to pay for anyway went on that card because I was like, I'm suffering through this, but at least there will be a free vacation at the end of the tunnel, right? But for you guys, your routine spending and you're using those credit card points, that's going to eventually be how you book your flight when you move abroad. It's going to be how maybe you pay for a couple of nights at a hotel until you find an apartment or until you get into like a long-term Airbnb situation. So definitely start thinking about a point hacking strategy that you can use to take advantage when you move abroad. I say this all the time. This should have been number one. It's not number four. You have to do your research. You cannot just pick up and get on a plane and go to a country you think you like without knowing anything. You have to at least especially consider the cost of living in that place. I live in Hong Kong. Cost of living is out of control. It is incredibly expensive here. If you were to move somewhere like a smaller city in Thailand or Cambodia, it would be a lot cheaper. So, depending on what you are thinking you want to do and what you can actually afford, you need to kind of get an idea of where you can go based on what your budget is. And that's the kind of decision that no one can make for you. I do help people with that. I do coaching, I do like private kind of move abroad consultations, which are available if you want to book one. But what I do in those sessions is help people understand what they want. I am not going to tell you what you want. So, part of the work that you're going to have to do is think about what is best for you. So, you need to think about what your dream life abroad looks like, and then I will be there in the background to kind of give you the advice and the input that will help you plan the steps you need to take to get there. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you found it helpful, please hit that subscribe button because I really want to get this channel to 6,000 followers before summer. And I really would appreciate any help you can give me getting to that goal. And also check out my expat life and move abroad playlist here and on TikTok. And you can also check me out on Instagram as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. And be sure to let me know any questions you have about moving abroad in the comments.